What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the End of the Chat Gaming Podcast. This is the 22nd episode of the End of the Chat Gaming Podcast. We're doing a couple bonus episodes this week, and this one is a special one because the Game of the Year and the Game Award nominees are up, so we're actually going to go through all of them and discuss them. We're going to argue. We're going to argue a lot this episode. I am Kneeckoh. As always, I am joined by my co-host, Rico. How are we doing, Rico?
Today's the day we choose violence.
Yes, we woke up and chose violence. But we are available on all podcast services except for Apple because they hate us. And we are also available on YouTube in a video format. If you are watching the video format, you will be able to see our votes as we cast them. So, should be pretty fun and entertaining episode. We just did one, so I'm not going to ask Rico what he's been playing. We literally just recorded the other day, and that episode is live today. But one thing before I get into it, I gotta say, did you see that Halo Shadow Drop multiplayer the other day?
I was seeing that, like, everybody was freaking out about it. They were just like, wait, what? It's out?
Yeah, they put it out on Xbox's 20th anniversary, just out of nowhere. So the campaign's not available, but multiplayer is. They're calling it the multiplayer beta, and I've been hopping in and playing it, and the delay was worth the wait. Let me tell you, it's a good time. I suck at it, but it's really fun and polished.
I was gonna say, like, Halo's definitely that. You can't really say like Halo's the same as Call of Duty or anything like that. It's its own thing, basically.
It is very much its own thing. Shooters. Like, going after playing so much Vanguard and going into Halo, I'm just like, holy shit, I am bad. Like, I'm okay at Call of Duty. Like, I stay around a 1.05 KD, but I am getting my dick kicked in Halo, and it is unbelievable. So, super fun. Check it out. It's available free for everybody. If you have Xbox, I highly recommend checking it out. But we're going to go over and do these nominees. So, you're not going to see our faces. It's just going to be the good old Game Awards nominees that you'll see if you're watching the video format. So, let's switch over. So, we're starting from the bottom of the list. And honestly, these are ones we don't care so much about. Like, the best esports event. Do you have a preference? Because
I don't. I'm afraid, like you're just gonna say, I don't follow esports whatsoever. Don't really care for it. It's cool that there's events for gaming that are so big, but I still don't really care much for it.
So I used to watch a lot of esports back when I was a big League of Legends fan. So I'm just gonna vote for League of Legends Worlds, and we'll just move on to the next category here.
Right, which would be
best esports coach. Again, don't care.
Yeah,
I don't care. So we're just gonna skip it. I don't know any of these people is the problem. Best esports team. Do I know any of these names? No, I don't. I don't know any of these names. Why are these categories?
I don't know. It's for inclusion.
I don't know any of these for the best esports athlete. Best esports game. I feel like I can definitely cast a vote for this one.
I'll say for this one. Yeah, you could probably like discuss this one a bit because you got usual Call of Duty and Counter-Strike, you got League on there, but I feel like you can make an honest case for Valorant because Valorant's been pretty prominent this past year.
I agree. Valorant, for me, if I was gonna pick, it's between League and Valorant. At the end of the day, I just think League's more popular. Like, I think League is just a bigger game, and Valorant will never quite catch up to it.
Yeah, not quite, but Valorant is like doing pretty well. I still see clips and people streaming it all the time. So it's not going to be as big as League, but it's up there in terms of popularity.
100%, 100%. It's another Riot game, and Riot seems to do pretty well in terms of their competitive scene.
Oh yeah. So really, in the end, Riot probably wins.
All right, so we're voting on League.
Yep, might as well.
Okay. All right, next category, most anticipated game. This one, I feel like we're going to have a little bit of an argument about.
I was going to, just looking at the lineup here alone, it's going to be hard to decide.
I have two. I have two that I feel are the true most anticipated, okay? Are you ready?
All right, let's hear it.
Breath of the Wild 2 or Elden Ring. Those are my two. I don't think God of War Ragnarok or Horizon, despite how much people want those games, I don't think they hold a candle to the reaction that Breath of the Wild 2 got or the hype that is around Elden Ring. Because that is all I see people talking about on social media.
Yeah, I can see it for. I guess in a way we're like half because I was gonna say like Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok because ever since again once you play God of War you'll understand. But
I do need to play
you
it. I
under,
understand. I
I
know.
was
I'm
like,
behind. I'm behind.
I was say because like in terms of the story, people are very excited, including me, for what can and what will happen in this next God of War game. So like I can understand like why you wouldn't pick that because you have yet to play that, but I feel like if you had played it by now, you might reconsider.
This is a tough one, okay? And this is just gonna come from my bias side. Like, I don't think it's what we're gonna end up picking, right? But
Right.
Starfield has me really excited because I've recently been playing Skyrim Anniversary Edition, and fucking A, Skyrim just never gets old. I've
It
played
never
through that
gets.
game 100 times, and it just never gets old.
It doesn't. That's how they're able to keep reselling it to us.
I mean, I was playing it last night till like 3:30 in the morning. Like, I was just grinding Skyrim. I love it. So like Starfield has me incredibly excited. I'm knocking shit over on my desk. Starfield has me incredibly excited just because I love the Bethesda game style. Like I love Fallout, I love Skyrim. And seeing them do something new, a new IP in space has me very very hyped. And for me personally, Elden Ring it looks cool, but I am not a Souls game kind of guy. Right? I'm not. So for me, Elden Ring isn't on my personal list. Like I'm gonna keep an eye on it, see what it's all about, and maybe pick it up. But for me personally, Starfield and Breath of the Wild 2 are on a way higher tier.
I probably like would have agreed considering like I mean I am excited about Elden Ring, don't get me wrong, but then also they were like they gave out like beta closed beta codes to people so people were like we're playing like a beta build of Elden Ring and there have been videos going up and after watching gameplay it has me intrigued because like even though of course it's our Souls like game it does a lot of things different. The biggest thing is that you can jump.
Yeah. I did see
Well,
that.
more than that, like of course, like with the jumping, but then also like there's some like combat mixed in with that, so that's a plus. You have a steed you can ride around and fight on, and it's essentially huge open world. It's not linear like past Soulsborne games, so you can literally like go about and play however you want, go wherever you want. You'll run into bosses that either you have to fight or you may just want to fight for fun. I saw one interaction where a guy was like he was about to roll up on this horde like that was just essentially hanging around a bonfire, and then as he goes to approach it a fucking dragon comes out of nowhere, just sky bombs them and wipes them all out, and now of a sudden you're in a boss fight with a dragon.
See, I might end up picking it up. Like it has a cool enough aesthetic for me that like that's why I got into
Right.
Bloodborne because Bloodborne was 100% like that gothic art style, had some horror elements, which is just like screams Kneeckoh. Like that's my kind of game. Like I love
Yeah.
horror games and I love that art style. That's why I picked up Resident Evil 8 after I'd never played a Resident Evil game. It just fit that style. So for me, it might have the same effect Bloodborne did where I just pick it up because of what it is and I don't know. I think we have to vote Elden Ring. With the amount we've talked about it, I think Elden
Yeah,
Ring is the way to go.
yeah, I feel like Elden Ring really is the one because like FromSoft they put out like amazing games already with the worlds they build, and then it even like it's just more like Soulsborne kind of. They're still this is something much different at least with it being open world, combat's a bit different, and yeah, I think it gets the vote.
100%. All right. Next category, we have Best Debut Indie. We have The Artful Escape, Forgotten City, Kena, Sable, and Valheim. I
Uh,
have
did
I have an opinion, and I'm gonna see what you have to say. I'm gonna wait.
well, it's the rest of the games aside from Artful Escape. I don't know a ton about, but Kena is definitely like a worthwhile experience. It is a gorgeous looking game, and the story behind it, with which has a nice like undertone message about like dealing with loss and like moving on stuff like that. That I honestly really enjoyed. Combat was like pretty simple, but with the diversity and the enemies and the boss fights, you really have to like think and plan out how you go about your fights. So yeah, for I mean, obviously it's gonna be for Kena for me, just because it's the only one I'm most familiar with. But let's hear your opinion.
So for me, it's not Kena. I knew you were gonna roll with Kena because you're the
Okay.
PlayStation guy. For me,
Yeah.
it's Valheim. Because Valheim had such a fucking moment earlier in the year. Like it was so big for that second that it was popular. It was like a month and then it kind of fell off. But even I'm not a big PC gamer anymore, but even I bought Valheim and hopped in, and just the survival Viking theme was super cool. Everybody was streaming it, everybody was talking about it, and I don't think Kena quite had that level of hype around it. Like, it didn't have that audience that Valheim had for the moment it did. So for me, I would have to go Valheim. But what do we think? What do we think between the two?
So the thing about it, even if like for you, like Kena wasn't like that hype, I did see like it did like way. Apparently, I didn't see the exact statistics, but apparently it did way better numbers than they originally projected. Enough so that now they're gonna be like a full time developer studio, and they already have like their next game in the works, which is gonna be a full blown like AAA title, story adventure driven like Kena, but on a bigger scale now. So that goes to show like how big Kena was, that now this development team, this is like their first dive into like the console gaming world, and now because of its success they get to keep doing that and like go on to a much larger scale. I think even like with support from Sony as well, even though I don't think they're a PlayStation studio, but they are going to be backed by Sony.
Okay, you kind of persuaded me. I haven't personally played it, but like I haven't heard shit about Valheim since it was big. So I'm gonna give it to Kena, knowing that they did way better than they expected. They're gonna be able to work on more games and be a larger studio in a sense. I'm gonna swing that way with you.
Yeah.
Next category, content creator.
Yeah, content. I'm. It's gonna be another one of those categories where it's like I only know Dream out of this category.
I also only know Dream, so I'm just gonna cast that vote.
I was gonna say, with how viral his like manhunt videos went and everything, I feel like it has to be him. I'm not knocking any of these other content creators. I'm just not familiar with them or their content
as well. I'm the exact same boat you are. I haven't even watched Dream. I just know of him because of how big he got.
Right, like I've only watched like his manhunt videos and like some other like random stuff, but those manhunt ones, they're just entertaining.
So best multiplayer, we have Back 4 Blood, Knockout City, It Takes Two, Monster Hunter Rise, New World, and Valheim.
All right, so I think to kind of start this out, there's two I'm gonna knock out from contention.
Okay.
Instead of like actually giving like which ones I consider. I'm gonna kind of knock out, pun intended, Knockout City, because like it did debut like pretty big, but I feel like it's fallen off pretty hard. It's still getting support. I'm still seeing like news for like the events and stuff it has, and it looks like cool stuff. But I haven't really dove back in since that initial like open beta / launch they had.
I'm in a similar boat. I don't know that I knock out Knockout City. I really enjoyed Knockout City. It's so fun.
Oh yeah. Don't get me wrong. It's just I've enjoyed it too. I just haven't like felt the need to like go back into it at all. Really,
the two I would knock out, and it's only because the one I'm only knocking out because I haven't played it. It Takes Two. I haven't played it. It looks like a phenomenal game, but I haven't sunk any time into it. And the other one I'd knock off is Valheim, because I played it with some friends and it's good for a little bit, but it kind of gets old really quick. Like, I think I only played it for a couple days. So those are the two I'd knock off. I don't think Monster Hunter Rise holds a candle. Like, I really enjoyed Monster Hunter Rise, but the rest of these on this list, I can't keep it up there on the same tier.
Yeah, I was gonna say Monster Hunter Rise was gonna be the other one I was gonna knock out, mainly because like whenever I think of a Monster Hunter game, I don't really think multiplayer. I think of just going in and slaying monsters with or without people.
Yes.
So I don't really consider it like a massive multiplayer game. However, I do have a different opinion on It Takes Two. I think, like, despite our vote, I think that that's gonna be the winner, because from what I've watched, I haven't played it myself, and maybe because it takes two. I don't really have anyone to play it with.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I've seen, it just looks like such a charming and actually well done platforming cooperative game that I haven't seen in I don't know how long. Like both like this, and then what was it? What was that one? Also 2-player game about like the two guys escaping from prison. I forget what that was
Oh,
called.
I don't remember what it was called.
I can't remember. I think It Takes Two was made from the
I think it
same
is. I think it's the
developers.
same team. But I know what the game you're talking about. I just can't think of the name of the game.
I think it was a No Way Out or something like that.
It might be.
Yeah, like if that team wants to keep putting out like these cooperative like narrative driven games, whether it's platform or like more grounded narrative driven like with No Way Out, fair enough, go on with it. We don't have like hardly any like actual cooperative games that aren't like massive multiplayer or like stuff like Knockout City, or we haven't even talked about Back for Blood yet.
Yeah. Back for Blood. It's a good multiplayer game.
It's a good zombie game.
It's a good game, but it's one that I haven't returned to a ton,
Yeah, because the weird thing about multiplayer games, especially with like the games they have listed here, is that you essentially want friends to dive in and play with. It's not like with Call of Duty multiplayer or like Battlefield where you just hop in, you get into a game and it's just mad chaos. You don't really need to get a team together or anything like that.
Yes.
But with these, you have to actually like coordinate with people. So it's hard to say.
See, I think there's two games that have that element. The element where you can hop in and play with or without friends. And I think those are Knockout City and New World. Knockout City, obviously, because it is just that kind of like hop in and like play a couple rounds, hop out, kind of like Call of Duty, like Battlefield. It has that element. But New World also, because of the MMO aspect of it, the game is designed around playing with other people. At some point, you're going to do it, whether you're in the same area, questing with people, doing dungeons, anything like that. So I think of these games, I would have to vote one of those two.
Honestly, like after saying that and I'm kind of thinking about it, I think I'd have to give it to New World. Just because of like the scale it's on and how like well it was executed. And like I haven't seen much on it, but from what have seen, like it actually looks like pretty interesting combat. Like I'm not one that's too into the whole MMO genre really, just because I always think like the combat's a bit dull. That's like one of the reasons I never really cared for stuff like World of Warcraft. But when I looked at New World, that actually made me kind of want to get a PC because it looked that interesting to me. So I think for me, I'd have to give it to New World.
All right, we'll vote New World because that seems to be where we agree on the subject.
Yeah. All great games, but there has to be one winner in the end. That's how it's going to go with a lot of these.
Now, I already have my answer for the next one because I've been addicted to it. Best sports racing. I'm going Forza 5. Like, Forza Horizon 5 is fucking amazing. I cannot get enough. I was playing it today before we started recording. I was grinding. I've been just buying. I saved up so much money that I've just been buying like meme cars, like just goofy, stupid cars. Like I have a whole collection of Jeeps, not because I want to race in Jeeps, simply because I want to throw the cool custom decals that people have made. And kudos to whoever's making these because they're fucking great. But I bought 3 Jeeps. One is the Jurassic World Jeep. One is the original Jurassic Park Jeep. And the third is the Jurassic Park Jeep that you ride is like automated and you ride on the rails from the first movie. Like that's the only reason I have these fucking Jeeps. Like I am so hopelessly addicted to Forza and the racing is fantastic. The ability, the accessibility, whether you want to play on a higher level, if you want to switch out, if you want to have a more realistic experience versus a more like middle of the road experience versus an easy, like you want the game to hold your hand kind of racing game, it's fucking awesome. The other game that I've heard a lot about and I feel like is going to be a serious contender is going to be Riders Republic.
I was just going to say I'm pretty sure we're both going to be in agreement that like Forza gets a vote, but I still want to like mention like both Hot Wheels Unleashed and Riders Republic are like solid, like at least runner-up contenders, because I've heard and seen a lot about Riders Republic. It looks like a hell of a fun like arcadey style game where you don't even necessarily have to do racing. If you just want to like fuck around and like drop down a mountain on your bike, hell, if you want to just be skydiving like 500 feet in the air, let go of the chute and then switch to your bike and just zoom down a mountain, you can do that, and I love that shit.
Yeah,
And
if Riders Republic was on Game Pass, I would have probably been playing it already because it looks like Forza, but with like bikes and all the other extreme sports type of stuff. And I'm so into that kind of gameplay right now because it's just sheer fun. Like that's what I think why I'm so addicted to Forza is because there's just so much goofy shit to do and none of it matters. None of it matters. Right. It's not competitive unless you're racing online, and that's optional. Like, it's just open world fun and chaos, and I'm so addicted to that formula. So Riders Republic, I think, is going to be, if Forza doesn't win, it's going to be Riders Republic.
Right. And then this one I don't think will win, but I still think it has, like, a strong case for, like, run-up Hot Wheels Unleashed. Because, like, from what I see on game, it's, like, it's not your usual racer, like, what you'd expect, really. Like, it's much more... Each car has its own, like, properties for how it drives and how it handles. Like, essentially a bigger, like, more hefty car isn't gonna do as big of jumps and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So you have to make sure you're going, like, full throttle. Or if you're a car that's going, like, too fast on these ramps, you can actually overshoot it. Hell, you can actually, like, Rainbow Road this bitch, launch yourself off the side of the road, and land down on a different track ahead of the pack. I'm just like, what the hell? It's like, it's almost like it's borderline arcadey in terms of like you race how you want, but there's also like a certain amount of skill to it, essentially with like all these cars having different properties and handling differently and stuff like that. It's almost like handling actual Hot Wheels, because I'm sure you remember, you build your Hot Wheel tracks, you send them down the ramp, and you expect all the cars to do the same thing. But no, all the cars launch a different way. And that's essentially what they copied into the game form.
Yeah. I think I think you're right. I think there is a case to be made for Hot Wheels, but I don't know if it quite holds a candle to Forza or Riders Republic.
Oh no, it doesn't. It, if anything, it's like at least runner-up or like third place in terms of all these games here. Because FIFA, I mean, is FIFA... And then F1 is, well, F1.
It's a very niche market for those two games.
Right. But still, three solid contenders out of this. But, I think we're both in agreement, like, after, like, how much you've rated about it and, like, all the crazy reviews I've seen, I think we're both in a unanimous agreement. It's Forza.
Perfect. I love it. I'm gonna be irate later in this because of this game. I'm gonna just talk about that. Best sim and strategy game. Age of Empires, Evil Genius 2, Humankind, Inscription, or Microsoft Flight Sim. I have a vote. I know what I'm picking.
I know what you're picking too, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be the one we just go with, because I'm not really too in the sim or strategy genre, at least not these kind.
Yeah.
So I'm not too familiar, but from what you told me about your pick, I can kind of understand.
Yeah, I've heard great things about Inscription. I know a lot of people really, really dig that game and are really into it. I've not personally played it. In terms of like Age of Empires and Humankind, I'm not really into that style of game. I respect them. I know why people love them. It's just not for me. But as someone who has Game Pass, downloaded Microsoft Flight Simulator just on a whim to see how good it looked, like the fact that I had to spend an hour and a half in the tutorial section just to figure out how to get my plane off the ground, like the amount of realism they put into the game to make it a real flight simulator, it's hard to not vote for it, especially with how beautiful the environments are and the continued support and all that stuff. I'm blown away by the game. It's not something I've revisited because it's just not for me, but as a game, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I was say like you've sunk a lot of time into Xbox, so for stuff like this, I'm gonna kind of just like go with you on it, especially if mainly if it's stuff that where the choices I'm not familiar with.
So Microsoft Flight
Simulator. Yeah.
Boom. Moving on. Best family. This one, I have two picks. I have two picks. Yeah.
So yeah, I think I have two picks too, because when it says best family, I'm thinking of a game that you can actually like sit down with like some of your families, like brothers, sisters, cousins, get the parents involved, even though they're just gonna play along and not actually know what the fuck they're doing. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of like what I'm thinking. So I have like two picks in terms of that.
See, when you put it like that, my opinion changes. Okay, because I had two picks based on the ones that I'm a big fan of. But based on like the ability to play as a family, I switch my vote. So the one I'm gonna remove is It Takes Two. I don't think it's a family game.
No, this is more like, something you'd play with like a friend or like, a couple that would do it. That's
Yeah.
essentially what that is.
Now the one that's gonna, I can't actually remove it because okay. It's Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. First off, Bowser's Fury is phenomenal. It's fucking
Right.
amazing. I 100% it. It's so good. Like that alone was worth $60 to me personally. I loved Bowser's Fury, but on top of that, you get Mario 3D World, which is a multiplayer game. You know, you can play with up to 4 people. You run through the courses, and the courses are really fun. It's like Mario 3D Land on the 3DS bumped up onto the Wii and now ported to Switch, and it's so good. That one's really solid. In terms of Mario Party, that one I also think is a very good family game. You can play it, everybody get in the same room. WarioWare is the same. It
Right.
Pokemon Snap is an interesting one. Okay?
Yeah. Because
Because
that's more of like a sit down on the couch and sort of like experience it together. It's not necessarily something you quote unquote play. It's mainly like just an experience,
yeah.
really.
And I think it could be considered a family game. Like I understand why it's here because you could like sit down as a group and be like, "Oh shit, hold on, turn your camera back. You know, there's a hoot hoot doing something stupid over there, or a Heracross doing something crazy over there, right?" So you could do it as a group. I don't know how fun that would be. But I personally really enjoyed Pokemon Snap. I'm glad it got nominated for something because it's a very good game.
Right.
But in terms of this one, I don't think it quite meets the cut. Now,
Right.
I think WarioWare has to go. I don't think WarioWare quite holds a candle to Mario Party or Mario 3D World.
Right. And
I
that's like fair.
I think WarioWare's fun. It's a bunch of goofy mini games, but Mario Party just does mini games better. So
Right.
if you got two mini games right there, I think you have to give it to Mario Party over WarioWare.
Yeah, especially since like Mario Party, like it's more of a competitive aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Where, as with WarioWare, mainly just this one, they added in. I think it's like up to 2 or 4 players, and it's more cooperative rather than like competing, really.
Yeah.
So, I think Mario Party does beat that. So really, I guess it comes down to Mario Party or Super Mario 3D World / Bowser's Fury.
And that's a tough one.
Yeah,
It's a tough one because 3D World is so. Also, the other issue with this is that both of these games are technically like remakes. Like Super Mario,
right.
well, Mario Party Superstars is just old recycled Mario Party games, and then Super Mario 3D World is a port, but you got Bowser's Fury. So it's kind of hard to like narrow it down based on like which is actually new because they both have recycled content. I For me, I like Mario Party, but Mario Party's never been like my go-to. Like if we're all hanging out, let's play that. I would much rather play Mario 3D World. So for me, I
Right.
think that's where I'd lean.
I think I'm gonna kind of agree with you there, just because it does have that fun cooperative part of it. I also want to point out how like the two we came down to, even though it's best family, these are like the two games that would be most likely to tear a family apart.
I think Mario Party for sure. I don't know if 3D World would be quite the same because you're kind of playing the level together.
Yeah, you need to see some like some like friends online playing together because I've seen some toxic shit.
Best fighting game. Now this is not my category at all.
I was gonna say this is more up my realm, and so I'll just like go over the ones like that I at least know about. So Nickelodeon All Star Brawl, essentially Smash Bros, but with a Nickelodeon coat of paint. I Ever since it came out, I have not seen or heard much about it.
Yeah,
It
there was a
it was
lot of hype leading
yeah,
up to
there
it, but I
was
haven't heard shit since.
right, and I think that was just mainly due to it being so like out of nowhere and people just overall like very curious about it.
Yeah.
But then like when in terms of it actually coming out and people getting their hands on it, it's like okay, this is like fine. I know one thing that definitely hurts it is that there's no like voice acting in it. So like all you hear is like the characters hitting each other, but you don't hear them actually say anything. So
Uh
that definitely hurts it a lot, especially with like like the iconic voices you have there. Like just imagine like just whacking SpongeBob and hearing him constant scream, or Patrick going like,
yeah, like that I didn't know there was no voice acting, so that definitely takes away a little bit from that one. I'm sure
yeah,
the other one you're gonna reference is Demon Slayer.
yeah, Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer. I'm not gonna say it's a great game, but it is definitely a very good game. especially since it's by CC2 and basically the same people who made the Ultimate Ninja Store games. The Ultimate Ninja Store games were fucking phenomenal in terms of recreating the most like iconic moments from Naruto. And Demon Slayer is definitely the same case. It recreates beautifully like all like the really iconic stuff from the anime. The combat is very different from Ultimate Ninja Storm, but still very enjoyable. Even if you like you don't even really have to dive heavy into it, like figure out all like the technical stuff of it. If you just want to like hop in with a friend and mash buttons, beating the shit out of each other, you can, and that feels satisfying with some of these characters. But the game I feel like the vote's going to have to go for is Guilty Gear Strive.
I had a feeling that was where we were going to end up.
Yeah. I would say, like, when this game was, like, first announced, the hype was, it was constant for it to release. It died out a little bit, but I'm still seeing stuff about it. I'm still hearing about it.
Yeah.
And it has a great art style. It is also by CC2, funny enough, the same people who made Demon Slayer and then the Dragon Ball Fighters game. So it's a very lovely looking game. It's a very lovely looking game in capturing that like 2D/3D art style. And the character designs are like very, very cool. I don't think I've seen a design I necessarily hate. And I know the combat is like just as fun. So overall, I think Guilty Gear Strive takes it.
All right. I'll give it to you. I'm not the fighting game guy.
Although one thing I'm afraid of is that Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl wins because people are going to vote for it for memes.
I could see it. Yeah. Best role playing, and I think this one we're going to argue about.
I feel like too, because for me at least, it's that top three there I'm going to be torn between.
So I don't know. Monster Hunter I never see as like a role playing game.
Yeah, no, like, yeah, you can, like, switch up your armor and fighting style, like, on the fly, your crafting weapons and everything, but there's no, like, actual, like, stats. Well, I mean, there is stats to take into consideration, but that's if you're, like, super hard, like, dive into Monster Hunter, like, you're looking at your resistance and everything and building different armor sets and everything.
Yes. All right, so here's my thought, okay? Monster Hunter, not quite there. From what I edited and watched of you play Scarlet Nexus, it's not for me. I can't. I know people are gonna vote for it. It's not what I have two. The one I think is going to win. I think Shin Megami Tensei 5 is going to win.
I can see that, honestly. I haven't played it myself, but I can see that. Now, I will say, to avoid like any like pitchforks and torques, originally when I saw that game, I was gonna think like, oh, now we can see like where the Persona series came from and how stuff originated. From what I hear, and if you say this, you will be castrated. Do not compare this to any Persona game. You will be, hung from the gallows for saying so, because apparently it is very different, and from what I hear, very difficult, even on the basic difficulty setting.
I've seen phenomenal reviews for Shin Megami Tensei. It seems to be very popular, and I'm not shocked. It's a very popular series that has really kind of grown in popularity over here in the West. So I think that is ultimately what is going to win this category. Honestly, I could see it going both ways. I could see Monster Hunter honestly win with the amount of hype that it has gotten over in the West after Monster Hunter World. Like, Monster Hunter's popularity has really grown. I think it's between those two that will win. My personal vote is going to be Cyberpunk.
See, I get that. However, like, my choice is good. My opinion is going to be different because I have been basically holding off on diving back into Cyberpunk. Not because like I've had like any issues or technical difficulties with it. Thankfully, I haven't been like one of like the many people who have had issues with it, and that could just come down to like I was fortunate enough to be able to play it on stronger hardware by the time it came out. But I do see like the frustration and everything, and it just kind of like it gets me burnt out on it, knowing like this game's like good and all, but it could have been better.
Yes, I'll agree. It's not the game that we were promised. It's not. but it's still a really good game. Like
It is.
I loved my time with Cyberpunk, and I again was fortunate enough to play it on stronger hardware. I played it on my Series S, and I did not have any issues. Of course, I had a couple bugs here and there, but nothing that was game breaking. And I loved Cyberpunk.
Right.
I'm looking forward to the next gen version because I'm really excited to hop back into it.
Right. For me personally, though, my pick is gonna go to Scarlet Nexus. Now I know it's not necessarily thinking. I don't blame you because when from that video, it was definitely the more boring portion of the game because it was like in the beginning, not much is going on, and I will say I'm not a fan of how like a lot of like the narrative aspects were done in just like these slideshow cutscenes, which kind of like killed it. But in terms of like the actual story, so many like twists and turns and stuff, and like the thing is, you can go into this for a second playthrough because you can play from two different perspectives. But just like going in, playing through it, like unraveling all these different like mysteries and conspiracies, and that's not even the best part of it. The best part about this game is the cast. There is not a single character out of this cast that feels like feels like they shouldn't be there, and there's not a single one that I dislike. Each character is likable in their own different way, and they don't like fumble over each other. If what I can compare it to now, it's like Returnals. Not Returnal. Yeah, Returnals. Or is it Eternals? Eternals. I'm thinking of the game Returnal. It's Eternal. God, I had an aneurysm there. Hold on. But yeah, if you've seen Eternals in theaters, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. But Eternals like does such a great job at balancing out all these new characters, and that's essentially what Scarlet Nexus is. It has like this pretty large like ensemble cast, but it's balanced out so well that no character feels unnecessary.
So we're stumped, okay?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if Cyberpunk will. I don't think Cyberpunk has a shot. Like, I appreciate it's nominated because it's a good game. It just wasn't ready to be released.
Right. It was a good game, but it's not what they initially wanted to put out. It's what they essentially had to put out to sort of like, satiate everybody. I don't know if it was like a higher up decision.
I think it was a higher corporate decision to put that game out in the state it was in.
Yeah, because I feel like if you were to ask like any devs like that, they'll say like, no, we should have worked longer on it.
Yeah. So I guess we'll cross Cyberpunk off, and it pains me. It pains me to do so.
Like I would reconsider if they've done a bit better in terms of delivering like what they promised. And I'm not blaming like the devs for that. I know it was like a higher up thing. It's just like, with how messy the launch was and stuff, despite how good of a game it is, I can't overlook like how things went down when it came out.
So there's three: Monster Hunter, Scarlet Nexus, or Shin Megami. Because I don't think either of us have played Tales of Arise or even know what the hell it is.
All I know is that's another like anime RPG, a good one from what I hear, and one I'll probably play at some point down the line, but I don't know a whole lot about it. But yeah, I definitely think it comes down between those three: Rise, Scarlet, and Shin Megami Tensei.
I don't know. I mean, let's give it to Scarlet Nexus because it's not a game for me, but you really enjoy it, and I know a lot of people also really enjoy it. It even got a G Fuel flavor, and then it was kind of a weird random factoid about it. But like, I have the G Fuel flavor sitting next to me. It's called Brain Drive, and it's like a fruit punch Hawaiian punch G Fuel. It's fucking delicious, but like, it's kind of weird that got a G Fuel flavor at all. So like, I don't know. Maybe it's more popular than I give it credit for.
I'm just finding it funny how like the convincing factor is like it has G Fuel.
I mean, they go for like big popular shit. Like they got a Venom flavor, they got Sonic flavors, they got a lot of big game inspired flavors. Like Shiny Splash is a Pokemon Shiny flavor. So like, I kind of like I think that it's maybe more popular than I give it credit for. So I'm gonna cast the vote for Scarlet Nexus. I don't know. I think Shin Megami Tensei is gonna win.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue there, but yeah, vote Scarlet Nexus because I wouldn't be mad about that either.
Best action adventure games. We're gonna argue. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's see the
Marvel's
list here.
Guardians of the Galaxy, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and Resident Evil Village.
Let me just say this right now. Fucking strong category here with this lineup.
Oh, it's a banger of a category. Now, I'm gonna start. I have not played Guardians of the Galaxy yet. It's getting phenomenal reviews. It's on my to-do list. I've not played Metroid Dread. Money's tight. It's Brooktober, people, okay? Money's tight. So Metroid Dread, I want to play it. Haven't played it. Psychonauts 2, play it. Love it. Ratchet and Clank, platinumed it. It's fantastic. Resident Evil Village, beat it. It's fantastic. Oh my god. I don't know.
Because I know for you it's between like 4 games. For me it's between 3, but still.
For me personally, as a game that screams Kneeckoh, it's Resident Evil Village.
I can see that.
Because it's such a me game. It's horror, it's fun action combat, it's got that awesome gothic art style. It's got Lady Dimitrescu. Like
Lady Dimitrescu.
God damn it. I love Resident Evil Village. And it inspired me to download and go back and play older Resident Evil. So like I love Ratchet and Clank. It was just more Ratchet and Clank at the end of the day. It was Ratchet and Clank.
It was fantastic, Ratchet and Clank, don't get us wrong.
Yes, but it was just more Ratchet and Clank. Now, Psychonauts 2. I love Psychonauts. It's so goofy. It's so fun. It's so weird. And there's just so much going on there. I would love to give it to Psychonauts 2, but for me personally, I don't think I'd put it higher on the list of games I played this year than Resident Evil Village. So, where are you at?
See, I feel like it comes down to 2, and let me start off by saying, like, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, I absolutely love that game. Visually, it was absolutely beautiful. It really shows off the power of the SSD from, like, how seamlessly you transition to all these different areas that you're thinking, like, how the hell is this not a loading screen? But for me, I think it's come down between 2 games. Because it's 2 games in, like, both franchises and somewhat genres that I've dove into and thoroughly enjoy. And that is Metroid Dread and Resident Evil Village. Resident Evil Village is not only the first Resident Evil game I've ever played, it's the first essentially horror game I've ever played. And I loved it. From like, now I never played Resident Evil 7, but I did like watch playthroughs on it, so I knew like the story and everything going into it already. But Resident Evil Village it was such a good time. Like from the monster designs and then, it actually like taking out these wolves in it. Essentially, like, the most satisfying part was, like, as you were going on, like, building up your arsenal, essentially turning into this one-man army is like, except for that one fucking section that just has you freeze up and saying, I am scared. That fucking baby, good lord, that was the most terrifying shit. I could not proceed for I literally like stopped playing the game for like a day or 2 because I was trying to like build myself up to like get through that section alone. I was like, this shit's terrifying. Give me a knife. And then there's Metroid Dread. I have never played a Metroid game before. I'm pretty sure I've dove into like Metroidvania type of games where it's like, one big map with different sections and like you do a lot of backtracking. But good lord, it is such a satisfying game to play. Like, the controls are seamless and, watching yourself, like, level up and same thing as Resident Evil Village, build up your arsenal and you're able to just take out these enemies like nothing, powering yourself up, your suit and your gun and everything like that. And then these boss encounters, my favorite ones, in terms of like quote unquote boss encounters, because these aren't necessarily like boss fights, are those robots that chase you around in certain areas. It's both like nerve-wracking and terrifying, but also extremely satisfying in a way. It adds like that nice touch of tension to the game that you don't really feel too often, but it's not necessarily like something that's going to give you a panic attack. It's just like, oh shit, gotta go. So that's why it's between those 2 for me.
So I think because we agree on Resident Evil, we cast the vote there. Simply just I haven't played Metroid, so I can't give my opinion on it. It looks fantastic. I want to play it, but you know,
You're gonna love it.
Money's tight.
You're gonna love it.
So let's cast it on Resident Evil.
Yeah, let's do that just because like we're in agreement on that. But I feel like, in all honesty, like for conversation's sake, if we both played all these games, you could really make the argument and case
100%
for any of these.
And it's such a strong category.
It really is. And let me just sort of like cut in and say like this is all just me and Nico's opinions, or like sort of finding like a middle ground we agree on. If we were both to like do this on our own in our own time, we would definitely have like different picks.
100% we'd have different lists.
But think of it as like not so much Nico's vote or my vote. Think of it as like the channel's vote or like our vote together.
Yeah.
And once again, this just comes down to opinion. We're not saying like any game that we don't pick is bad. It's just which one we think deserves to win.
This is going to be a long episode because we have 15 more categories and we've been going 50 minutes.
I feel like there's some we'll be able to like speed through.
I think this one is going to be one of those. Best action game: Back 4 Blood, Chivalry 2, Deathloop, Far Cry 6, and Returnal.
Deathloop.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, Deathloop's like too fucking good. Like,
it's
props
so
to like
good.
Props to like my second pick, which would be Returnal, because it's just a great roguelike game. But I can't like pick it over Deathloop really.
Deathloop was so good in everything it did. The gunplay, the stealth, the overarching story. Oh, it was just so good. Okay, next category. That was one that we could get through real quick. Best VR. I don't think we can really talk about it.
Well, there's one I feel like we can give it to just because it's the one I've heard the most about in terms of like reviews and being talked about.
Okay.
And that's Resident Evil 4. Going into it, people were more so like cautiously interested, but then when it actually come out and people were playing it, they were like, whoa, this is actually like fucking phenomenal. It feels like I'm playing Resident Evil 4 game, but I'm actually in the game. Like it wasn't some sort of like low grade VR, just like, you know, toss the game on there with like shit controls and all this stuff. From what I hear, people are saying like controls and stuff are nice and like the areas are actually like really well done. So I feel like it should go to Resident Evil 4 in terms of VR.
I will just agree because that's the game I've heard most about in terms of this list. Like I have heard a lot of people rant and rave about how good Resident Evil 4 VR is. So we'll agree on that one.
Right.
Innovation and accessibility.
Essentially, most accessible game.
Yes. Forza Horizon 5, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, Ratchet and Clank, or The Veil Shadow of the Crown. I haven't even heard of the last game. For me, I'm going to give it to Forza. They have an unbelievable amount of accessibility options. Like, in terms of games that I feel like are most comparable, like, I think aside from The Last of Us Part 2, Forza might be the game with the most accessibility options I've ever seen.
Right.
So for me, that's where my vote's going. I don't even remember what accessibility options are in Ratchet and Clank. So I don't know why that's even on the list. Far Cry 6, I don't recall what accessibility options are on the list.
Yeah, it's hard to, I was going to say like it's hard to like kind of pick unless you actually like play these games or are actually familiar in terms of like what their accessibility settings. You could also like go into this in terms of like which game is easiest for just anybody to like dive in and play, even if they have like no prior experience in the genre or franchise whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's read. Yeah, recognizing software and or hardware that is pushing the medium forward by adding features, technology, and content to help games be played and enjoyed by an even wider audience.
I feel like it should go to Forza in a sense because I think I saw something about an accessibility option where like I think not so much accessibility, but I think it's kind of like a difficulty setting, but it's still the same thing where if you don't like handle like fast speeds or fast moving motion pictures well, there's a setting you can change to where it actually like slows down the cars essentially. Not so much to where it's like you feel like you're going 15 miles an hour, but visually like it shows like not as much going on, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. There's like you can change all the settings on the cars. You know, if you suck at driving, or if you just aren't very experienced. Like my girlfriend started playing Forza today, set everything to the easiest difficulty, and she's not a racing game gal and was still having some trouble racing against these AIs. So she was able to get in and have a good time and still have that challenge that she wanted from the game, but not have to like, you know, race against these crazy AIs. But also on top of that, they have a lot of stuff in like the character creation screens where like if you want to change one of your limbs to a prosthetic limb, you can do that. Or if you want to have certain pronouns, like they have he, she, they, them, you know, that kind of stuff. All that stuff is there as well. And there's a ton of like accessibility features in the settings, you know, in terms of like font sizes and colorblind settings and a bunch of stuff like that. They did a really good job making this game accessible to as many people as humanly possible.
Yeah. So yeah, after hearing all that, I feel like I'd have to agree with you in terms of picking Forza. And that's maybe because like obviously like you've played it, so you know all the accessibility options. I don't know a ton about what the accessibility options are in these other games, but from the sounds of like what Forza's done alone, it sounds like they've done a lot to make sure like everybody can play their game.
Yeah. 12. Best community support. Apex,
this one will be interesting.
Destiny, Final Fantasy 14 Online, Fortnite, and No Man's Sky. Recognizing a game for outstanding community support, transparency, and responsiveness, inclusive of social media activity, game updates, and patches.
It's hard to say.
Okay, so Apex community is kind of toxic.
Destiny's community is also very toxic.
Kind of toxic. The community that stands out in my mind in terms of like overwhelming positivity around their game is Final Fantasy 14 as well as No Man's Sky.
Yeah, it definitely comes down between those two.
Now, as of late, I've not heard as much about No Man's Sky, so I'm leaning more toward Final Fantasy.
I think they're supposed to have a big update coming sometime next year. I forget like what exactly entails. I just know it's a big one. But yeah, it hasn't been in the news a ton. But Final Fantasy 14 Online, I think they recently had their big release, or if not, they've been definitely promoting it, and I've definitely seen a lot of people talking about it.
I think it's coming soon. I think it got delayed a little bit.
Yeah, I think I did see it got delayed slightly. I just don't remember to when.
So, where are we going here?
I mean, I feel like just because it's more fresh in my mind in terms of like seeing it in the news and seeing people play it, I think it has to go to Final Fantasy 14 Online, which I feel like should be your pick too, because that is actually really that's your first like dive into the Final Fantasy worlds.
Yeah. I did hop in, play it for a little bit, and I do really enjoy it. I just don't have time for an MMO, but it's a fantastic game, and I can't recommend it enough. Best mobile game. I would vote Pokemon Unite. We have Fantasian, Genshin Impact, League of Legends Wild Rift, Marvel Future Revolution, or Pokemon Unite. I think Genshin's gonna win, but I would vote Pokemon Unite.
It could, but I say we go with Pokemon Unite just because when I think Genshin, I don't think too much about people playing it on their phones. I think more people but playing it on their consoles.
Okay.
Yeah. Plus, like with Pokemon Unite being on mobile and Nintendo Switch, just adding that much more accessibility, it kind of has to take it.
Okay. I'm with it. I'm down to vote for Pokemon. I loved Pokemon Unite. I have not hopped back in as of late, but it was so much fun while I was playing it. Best indie game. Ooh, 12 Minutes, Death's Door, Inscription, Kena, or Loop Hero.
Now, obviously, you're gonna hear like what my pick is, but I want to hear what's yours because you've played, I think, several of these games.
Oh God,
or at least 2 of them.
I've played 2. 12 Minutes was fantastic. The thing, okay, God damn it, they're making me really think about it, okay? Because Death's Door is phenomenal. Oh, it's so good. It reminds me of like a top-down Zelda game with like some gothic elements, and like it's fucking awesome. It's really good. When it comes out on PlayStation and Switch, everybody go buy it. It's freaking awesome. 12 Minutes though, this like time loop game. We had a lot of time loop games this year. This time loop game where you kind of have to break down and figure out each run, what changes in the environment and how to get certain things to happen with the strong cast that it had of voice actors. I almost want to give it to 12 minutes over Death's Door, because the difference is I actually finished 12 minutes versus I did not finish Death's Door. I need to go back to Death's Door, but I have not had the time. But 12 minutes was...
Yeah, so I feel like it's going to come down between 12 minutes, because that's your pick, and then for me it's Kena, because that's my pick. But in all honesty, it's hard to say. Because I've made my case for Kena already, so it's just a matter of like which one has the stronger case now.
Here's my argument with like 12 minutes. It got announced, then Microsoft started backing it. Then because Microsoft started backing it, they had bigger, more known names, like William Dafoe plays one of the characters in the game. In this little indie game, we have freaking Green Goblin voicing one of the characters. Like the development and the process of getting this game out, it was just so crazy and like a roller coaster. It's so good. I was so astounded by the experience that it had. Like I loved it.
And like Kena kind of had the same story in terms of like, the fact that it gets like this support from like Sony, and now they're able to move on to like bigger games. But I feel like in terms of that, with this indie game that's just starting out, and you're getting like these big name actors and these performances in them, and getting like quite a like worthwhile narrative experience. Whereas I will say with Kena, it does have some like with mainly like Kena, the character you play as, she's not the most interesting, but from what you're telling me, like 12 minutes has like a very like well done ensemble cast of characters and keeps you like hooked and intrigued. I think I'm gonna agree with you in terms of picking 12 minutes as a pick.
I think it's gonna come down to 12 minutes or Death's Door, because Death's Door was so well received, and now it's coming out on other platforms, and people are very excited for. I think it's gonna be those two games, because Death's Door almost strikes me as the Hades of this year.
Right.
It's just, it came out, people loved it, and now it's coming out on other platforms, and people are very fucking excited. Best ongoing game: Apex Legends, Final Fantasy 14 Online, Fortnite, Genshin, or Call of Duty Warzone. I'm immediately knocking Warzone off this list.
Yeah, Warzone off the list. Fucking get that anti-cheat in there, you silly little independent studio.
Activision, what a small indie company.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so for me, I love Apex, but I don't think it's on the same level of Fortnite.
I'm in agreement with you there. Fortnite it continues to generate so much hype, not just with its events, but also like these crossovers they keep having. Wait, like, dude, they fucking Naruto dropped in a game. I bought all the skins.
Yeah, I gotta hop on and buy the Naruto skins. I was very excited to see them. But yeah, they constantly do the crossovers. They reinvent so much stuff every season. It's just so fresh every time you get on and a new season has started. So for me, I'm going Fortnite all day.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Fortnite's just too good of like a hype machine now with its crossovers.
Yes, it's the biggest crossover game.
Now, this one you have to read description about, because I don't know how to like base my vote on for this one.
Games for Impact. For thought-provoking game with pro-social meaning or message. We have Before Your Eyes, Boyfriend Dungeon, Chicory. I've heard fantastic things about Chicory. Life is Strange, True Colors, and No Longer Home. Now, I've only played one of these games.
I have played none.
I've played Boyfriend Dungeon, and it was very good, and I understand why it's on this list. I've also heard phenomenal things about Life is Strange True Colors, and I have listened to a couple podcasts that reviewed it and stuff. So for me, it's between those two. Of the two here that I would vote for, even though I played Boyfriend Dungeon, I thought it was great. I think Life is Strange, from the reception it had, I'm gonna have to go with that one.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna agree with you. I've never played a Life is Strange game. I've mainly just watched like playthroughs from like the first one, as well as like I think some of the DLC that came with it. But I know they've always been like well received games, have very like thought provoking stories, and I'm just gonna assume like True Colors is no different.
Now, I will say, I'm happy to see Boyfriend Dungeon on the list, because it was such a weird game. and it just kind of like even the name, people are like, what does that even mean? It's a really good game. I highly recommend checking it out. I'm glad it at least got nominated. I don't think it'll win, but I'm glad it was here.
Right.
All right. Let's see here.
I already know my pick.
Best performance. We have Erica. I am so sorry if I mispronounce these, because Erica Mori as Alex Chen in Life is Strange. Can't say anything about that. Giancarlo Esposito as Anton Castillo in Far Cry 6. I love that performance. Jason Kelly as Colt Vaughn in Deathloop. Maggie Robertson as Lady Dimitrescu. Oh God, Ozioma Akaga. I'm so sorry. As Juliana Blake.
We probably butchered the hell of that.
Butchered it, and I do apologize.
I feel like there is one clear-cut, definitive answer.
Okay. Say what you have to say.
Fucking nuts.
The fuck are you doing here? We're doing something.
I just wanted to answer your question, that's all.
Okay. Anyway, I feel like the one true definitive answer, just cause from how much this bitch may unleash something in everyone and turned every fucking man, woman, and child into a thirsty motherfucker, I feel like it goes to Maggie Robertson for Lady Dimitrescu, because holy hell, she created a mommy fetish and people who didn't even know they had that fetish.
I agree. She killed it. And that's who I would go for. However, Jason Kelly's Colt is phenomenal.
I was gonna say, I love his performance too. Like, Colt's just so entertaining. And
Colt is an entertaining as hell character. Ozioma Akaga, I hope I'm saying it right, as Juliana, fantastic. So good.
Yeah.
The thing I'll say about Giancarlo Esposito, as much as I love that performance and that character as Anton Castillo in Far Cry, he plays the same character in every fucking thing he does. Like, it is the same character that was in Breaking Bad, you know, so it's like, I love him. I love him as an actor. He's so good at that particular role, but it's nothing we haven't seen him do before. So for me, I'm with you. Lady Dimitrescu, I love the character. I love the performance, the amount of memes and like just online activity revolving around that character. I have to give it to Maggie Robertson.
Yeah.
Best audio design. Deathloop, Forza Horizon 5, Ratchet and Clank, Resident Evil Village, and Returnal.
See, now this one will be interesting, because a lot of this stuff so far has been like, you know, thinking of how well games play and stuff and like what they do. This is just for how the game sounds. Ooh. I think I know my pick, but at the same time, it's still hard to like say for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think I would go with Eternal, because the sound design is just done so well with that, and it translates so well through the DualSense in terms of like, you know, feeling and hearing like the patter of rain and like wind blowing and stuff like that, grass rustling and everything as you go through these different environments. So I think I'd have to go Returnal for this.
So for me, it's between two, because I've not played Returnal. It's Deathloop or it's Forza 5. And Deathloop was fantastic in the gun sounds, the, you know, environment stuff, you know, with the landmines, the different what were they called? I can't even remember what the individuals were called. On the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of it. But you know,
damn it, you're gonna drive Visionaries? Is that it?
Well, the Visionaries, yes, but the people, the individuals, I can't remember what they were called. Regardless, the conversations that they had, the voice acting, all of that was done so incredibly well. The back and forth between Colt and Juliana, but all over the radio and the radio sound effects, all of that. The power-ups had such cool, but I don't know. Forza, God, the game's so good. Forza is so well done in terms of the different car sounds, in terms of the actual soundtrack. Like, the radio stations have some really popular songs, like, they got Levitating by Dua Lipa, they got Industry Baby by Lil Nas, they got Teardrops by Bring Me the Horizon. Like, they have a huge soundtrack that they have. On top of that, the way that, the different environmental effects impact the sound, like whether you're driving on dirt, on road, on water, wherever you're at, the weather effects and the environment that you're in add so much to it. Like one scene in particular that comes to mind is the volcano. They have you go up on this volcano, this active volcano, and you're doing a bunch of like science research and stuff, and you're driving around and you feel the rumble of the volcano in your controller as you hear it in your headset, and it's so well done. So for me, I have to go with Forza.
See, here's the thing now. After you talked about Deathloop and I started thinking back to playing it again, because it's been a little bit since I've played it, and like thinking of the sound designs from like the power-ups and, you know, the guns and all that stuff, I might need to change my pick to Deathloop now.
We'll vote Deathloop since it's the one we agree on, and
Right.
both of us had one that we both haven't played, so we'll vote Deathloop. If I was doing this list alone, it's 100% Forza.
Yeah,
Best,
it's definitely divisive.
yeah, best music score, best score and music. So, The Artful Escape, Cyberpunk 2077, Deathloop, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, and Nier Replicant.
Ooh.
For me, it's Deathloop or Cyberpunk, but that's because those are the only games I've played on this list.
The thing is, I also want to consider Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy because, you know, if it's anything like the movies alone, you know it's going to have a killer soundtrack.
Yeah. Cyberpunk's soundtrack's very good.
So yeah, I was gonna.
I don't know if it's on the level of Deathloop, because Deathloop was like, it's set in the 70s and the music fit in so well with the era that they put the game, and it really made it gave it that old-timey feel, and like all the spy stuff and the spy music and the stealth stuff, like
and plus I love like how anytime you get into like these conflicts, like the music kicks in and like gets all like high energy and stuff like that, and just basically matches just what's going on around you or like what kind of situation you're in. So yeah, I think honestly, like if I played Guardians of the Galaxy by now, my opinion would probably be different. But I think it does go to Deathloop because it captures that aesthetic so well with its music.
Best art direction: The Artful Escape, Deathloop, Kena Bridge of Spirits, Psychonauts 2, or Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. In this, I'm going to read this for you, because this might persuade you. For outstanding creative and or technical achievement in artistic design and animation. I have one that comes to mind in terms of creative and technical achievement.
For me, it's when I think of like the technical achievement that kind of gives me my pick. And I feel like we're either going to be in complete agreement or very divisive right now.
Go ahead. What do you got?
We'll make this interesting. We'll say it at the same time on the count of 3.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Psychonauts 2. Oh my god! I knew it was gonna happen.
I mean, to be fair, although it's funny because they both like do some similar things, so it's kind of funny we come down to those two.
Like, I agree on the technical side of things, Ratchet and Clank, but Psychonauts 2 does a lot of that, like, portal thing, like the rift thing that Ratchet and Clank does. It does the same thing. So, in terms of, like, the creativity of the games, I don't think Ratchet and Clank even comes close to the amount of creativity that is in Psychonauts 2.
I get that, but then I'm also thinking about like all the different worlds you go to. The one that sticks out to me the most was like that mining planet that like you keep swapping back and forth between like these two dimensions that are in the same world. So you get like these two, you almost basically get like two worlds in one. The one where it's like all desolate and destroyed, and you're just like looking out into the void, and you see like these purple shards and this glowing light. Oh my god! When I got to that point, I just like looked out there and I just like stared. I'm just like, this is fucking gorgeous. Like, holy shit.
I'm not gonna agree. Like, I think I agree that level is fantastic, but I don't think I can truly convince you on Psychonauts 2 without you having experienced it yourself. So I'm gonna side with you on Ratchet and Clank, simply because, like I said, I don't think I can truly convince you without you having seen the level design and the creativity that went into each of the levels without you playing them. So we'll go Ratchet and Clank on this one. We've got 3 categories. We're coming down to the end here. Best narrative: I don't really think this is a category that needs to be done here because it's obvious. Deathloop, It Takes Two, Life is Strange, True Colors, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, or Psychonauts 2.
No, hold on. No, I think we're in agreement.
It's Deathloop.
It's Deathloop. Like the way it does its story, it's done like too well. Like it gives you it does give you a narrative experience, but then there's also stuff you kind of like learn on your own as you play. So like there's stuff you can miss, and then there's stuff you find out more of.
Yes, the stuff that you learn on your own. The ability of them to have a time loop game, but every day you have new dialogue between Colt and Juliana, and it's never the same.
Like, I was gonna say I love their interactions every time.
That is incredible. You know, as you go through each loop, having more knowledge, learning about the different Colts that are also going through a loop as you play through the game, and the fact that it leaves so many questions. Like I'm left going, okay, I want to know more. I want to know how this whole like loop thing started, who's behind it, how Colt really had an impact. I would love a prequel game.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure how they would do it, but I would love it.
I would say they do it, and then it's either going to be like a similar case to this game, or they maybe just like make it a focus like single player narrative, and you play as either Colt or Juliana. Jolteon.
Oh, so yes, I think we're going with Deathloop there.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Best game direction. Oh my fucking god. Deathloop, It Takes Two, Returnal, Psychonauts 2, or Ratchet and Clank.
Now let's read the description of this one, just to see if it coerces our opinion.
Okay. Awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design.
All right, so we'll knock out like Ratchet and Clank because, like you said, it's more Ratchet and Clank, yes. And the only thing it does like really different is the red things, which is amazing, but I don't feel like it's personally enough. Returnal is a fantastic roguelike, yes, but
it's a roguelike.
We've all said it is a roguelike. It doesn't really do too much that's different from other roguelikes.
Psychonauts 2 we can throw off for the same reason that we threw off Ratchet and Clank. It's fantastic, right. But it's almost the exact same as Psychonauts 1. So, and then it comes down to It Takes Two and Deathloop.
Yes. Just click Deathloop.
I'm with you. Deathloop just did so much as a time loop game, but not being a roguelike game. Like, having that consistent narrative going into each loop, it was done so incredibly well. And you could see the inspiration that Arcane took from Dishonored and Dishonored 2, and then took it into this game. Like
that, and like, you know, differentiating itself from being a roguelike by like letting you build up an arsenal instead of like starting completely over in terms of powers and weapons.
Yep. It's hard to stay away from Deathloop. The final category, our game of the year contender. Deathloop, It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, or Resident Evil Village. Now, I'm going to say this before we even get started here, is my game of the year is not on this list, but it was a contender in so many other categories, so it really pisses me off that it's not on this list here. Okay, my game of the year, goddammit, is Forza Horizon 5. I have not had that much fun playing a video game in a long time. Forza is pure joy. I cannot express that enough, and the fact that it's not on this list is like, it's a sin. It's a sin. Okay? It's awful. Okay? But from what's on this list, I am ecstatic that Psychonauts is on this list because it was like a cult classic, right? It was a cult classic, and then they brought the second one out, and now it's this big thing that a lot of people have experienced and enjoyed through Game Pass and stuff, and like they could go back and play the original through Game Pass. So I love that it's on this list. It is not my game of the year.
Yeah, I will say, like, one omission I'm surprised at seeing, and like one inclusion I'm also surprised seeing. I'm surprised to see one Guardians of the Galaxy left out, especially with like the rave reviews I've seen it getting. And then I'm also kind of surprised to see Resident Evil Village included here. I wasn't really expecting it for Game of the Year contention. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the game and everything.
I was also surprised to see Resident Evil instead of something like Returnal.
Yeah, that's another one. I'm surprised that Returnal got left out. But I will say it is nice to see both Metroid Dread and It Takes Two, both included for Game of the Year contention, because Metroid Dread is the first Metroid game in how many years that we've gotten, and it's been a phenomenal return that I've absolutely loved playing. And then It Takes Two, I'm also happy for because it's a game that I could tell like was a great game. I was just like sort of nervous it wasn't going to get the recognition it deserved, but obviously like with these nominations, like I'm happy to see it get like that recognition
I'm
now.
I'm right there with you. It Takes Two has been such an experience for so many people, and to see a smaller game like this get the recognition that it's gotten is fantastic. I love seeing the kind of wild cards, like the fact that It Takes Two and Psychonauts is both on this list. Like that is super cool to me. On top of that, it's really cool to see Metroid Dread on this list because unless it's like a Zelda or a Mario, like Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, like you don't see Nintendo on Game of the Year lists all that frequently. So to see something with a smaller fan base like Metroid come out and be as big a hit as it is, like that's freaking awesome.
I know, it's just I'd always like to see like with these Game of the Years, like which one's like the wild card, and the wild card for me it comes down to like two. It's like It Takes Two and Metroid Dread. It's very satisfying to see them there, really.
And like I understand why Ratchet and Clank is here. It was phenomenal. It was showing off the hardware. Resident Evil I think is an interesting pick. I'm not sure why it is here. I enjoyed it immensely.
Same.
The thing with this list is you can tell that there's none of the like this was a weird year for games. And I think that's why we see so many of these really like unique games like Metroid Dread, Psychonauts, and It Takes Two on the list because there weren't any of those big like Spider-Mans or Red Deads or things of that level for this year.
Right. Like don't get, these are all like very like well received and successful games, but like if you look at this list, there's really only like one like actual like big game that was like had all like the advertising support, had like a bunch of hype for behind it, a lot of promotion, a little too much promotion if you ask some.
The thing that I like about this though, the fact that there are no, Spider-Man's, GTA's, Red Dead's, those big games that like everybody's like, yes, we're in agreement on. Everybody knows this is Game of the Year. Like last year, we knew Last of Us Part 2, right? Everybody knew Last of Us Part 2 was Game of the Year, right?
Right.
This list, there is a case to be made for every single one of these games, and I love that.
Right.
I love the conversation pieces.
I know, like I don't want to like jump to conclusions and say I know what our pick's gonna be, but a case can be made for all these games. Like Resident Evil was like a fantastic, next entry in the Resident Evil franchise with this, continued with this now continued / closed story with Ethan Winters and this little saga that went through it. And I'm very curious to see on like where the franchise goes now in terms of story. Like, are we gonna follow more of like Ethan's daughter, who's, if you play the game, know is like a molded but like a highly advanced molded? Are we gonna be able to play as her? Are we gonna play as Mia or like maybe Chris and see the fallout from all the experiments and stuff? Who knows?
Yeah.
But I'm very curious to see, like, it got me more like Resident Evil Village got me essentially more curious on like where is Resident Evil gonna go from here now?
I am in agreement with that. It got me very much invested in the story with Ethan Winters, and then I'm just curious as to like I liked the tie-ins that it had with Umbrella and everything else. Like it was very, very interesting, and it was good on lore building and things of that nature. I really enjoyed the story that they presented there. Ratchet and Clank and Psychonauts are more of the same, but they did so good at doing more of the same.
Like I can't speak on Psychonauts, but Ratchet and Clank. Now, obviously, we've like Ratchet and Clank games. They're not very like heavy like story-driven games, but God, are they fun as hell to play with all these different gadgets and weapons and shit. Just all the zaniness that comes with a Ratchet and Clank game. This running and gutting and strafing, taking out enemies, it doesn't get old. It never does. And Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart makes it just 100 times better.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. Metroid Dread was it looks so good and so well polished as someone who hasn't played it. And just
Like,
seeing the response that people have had, like it's the best-selling Metroid game to date, and it's going to be a huge hit at Christmas time. We got the holidays coming up. Like it's so well done, especially when you tie it in with how pretty the visuals are, but then tie it in with the OLED Switch release and like them really pushing that. Be like, this game will look fantastic handheld on this system. Like, there's just so much going on there.
Yeah, the visuals are solid. It controls so damn well. Like all the controls and everything are like super snappy and instant when you're like frantically jumping around and running and like platforming and all that stuff, running and gunning, darting from one area to the other. It controls like so damn well, and that's probably like my favorite part about it. Just the snappy, seamless controls and like fly as you like progress. You get these upgrades that allow you to just fly through these areas. It's just so satisfying, and some of these boss fights are obviously like really fun too. Frustrating as hell, some of them, but like still satisfying. Like once you actually figure out what the fuck to do.
It Takes Two. It's a phenomenal game. Great co-op. I've seen so many people rant and rave about how good it is and the experiences they had playing with somebody else and going through that story. And it's a very meaningful story. So I think it's awesome that it's on this list. I think it's so cool that a game like this made the list. For me, it's Deathloop.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're coming down to like the game that we've been trying to put off from talking about because the past few categories we've already given it our vote, but now we come to the meat and potatoes.
It's Deathloop. The game is so well designed from start to finish. The narrative, the ability to have that consistent narrative while restarting the day over and over, tracking down the different clues, figuring out how you're going to be able to take out all the visionaries in one run, getting that very interesting ending. I won't go into it, but getting that very interesting ending to the game, and then like left with so many questions. The comedy, the gameplay, the powers, everything about it was so well done and well polished. It's hard to not vote for it immediately.
Yeah, I was gonna say Deathloop for doing something that's like so different that like makes you think like when you first like look at the premise of Deathloop, you think like, oh, it's essentially like a AAA roguelike. But then when you actually play it and you understand like the lore and the gameplay loop and everything, pun intended, ho ho ho. it's so different and unique than anything we've really gotten. The character performances with Colt, Juliana, and then all like the visionaries is very satisfying. Like Colt and Juliana are obviously like the stars of the show, but the visionaries definitely do shine in their own right, especially if you like take the time to read through some of like the clues and transcripts you find from like the visionaries talking to each other and getting a feel for what their personalities are like. And the thing is, like, those personalities actually play into gameplay, because I forget which one it is. There's one visionary that's like super fucking paranoid that like when you go into the area where he's there, if you set off like any traps anywhere, even so much as disarming them, not even setting them off, he will be alert that like, oh, you're here, and make your experience that much harder. I learned that the hard way.
It's just such a well-designed game, and it's so unlike anything we've had before that it just sticks out like a sore thumb in my mind as game of the year. Now, again, it's not my personal game of the year. Forza 5 is my game of the year. But in terms of like the thing with Forza 5, it's beautiful, it's stunning, but it's more Forza, right? Deathloop is entirely its own thing, and I loved every minute of it. And I don't know if it can quite be replicated, unlike something like Forza, where you're eventually going to get another release that is another Forza game in a different location. So for me, as much as if Forza was on this list and I was picking based on like actual innovation and, creativity, I would have to still give it to Deathloop.
Yes, I can't really argue much with that, but like Deathloop's just too strong game, too well done of a game, introduces something that like completely new, unique mechanics, and basically like, I don't want to say like reinvents like the roguelike genre, but definitely like starts something new.
Yes.
Something that we definitely could see in like future games and stuff in terms of like a gameplay loop. But all in all, even though it's not on the list, we know like the one true, game of the year, hold on, I'm gonna have it here in a second, is Bassmaster Fishing 2022, the true game of the year that just got left out.
Oh man. Well, that concludes our list of the Game of the Year Game Award nominees. You are able to do this yourself if you go on.
A lot of...
Oh yeah, we agreed and disagreed on a lot. We had some arguments. We had to just kind of concede some cases on certain categories.
Not even so much in differing opinions, but there was just a lot of these categories. It just came down to a lot of hard, like, you know, really thinking and deciding. It's like, God, it could be either of these, but only one has to win.
Yeah. So you are able to do this yourself if you want. Go check out the Game Awards website. You just log in with like any social media or Gmail or something, and you can cast your votes, and you will be heard. December 9th is the Game Awards, and I'm very much looking forward to watching them and seeing all the new, you know, trailers and stuff that we get, and seeing who actually wins, seeing if, you know, Rico and I were right. You are able to also, since we rant and raved about how good Deathloop is and also how good Forza is, we have videos, we have separate podcasts on that, so go back and check those podcasts out. We did a full video, full podcast, all on Deathloop, and then last week we talked about Call of Duty Vanguard as well as Forza, so go check those out if you want to hear more about those particular games. But that is going to be it for this episode, guys. Thank you for entering the chat with us. As I said earlier, you can check us out on podcast services as well as on YouTube in the video format. And you can check us out on socials. If you want to keep up with Rico, be sure to check out the End of the Chat social medias. And if you want to keep up with me, check me out at Kneeckoh Gaming on Twitter. But like I said, that is going to be it. Thank you all for hanging out with us today, and we'll see y'all in the next one.
Later!